I feel like I learned through that whole process how I was just sabotaging a lot of my relationships, and I didn't realize that till like the last two breakups that I had, because at that point I feel like I was trying to be more self-aware and trying to really look at the problems and look at it as it's my fault. You know, like we've talked about, it's like everything's my fault, and when you look at everything being your fault, you can start picking out where you went wrong and playing around with, okay, the different situations that you had. We had a problem here. What was the issue? And what did I do wrong in that situation that caused, you know, not looking towards blaming the other person? Because I feel like I realized that that's what I would do before. I would really just blame them. And I feel like now I understand that that's just the easy way out.
Correct. And that's what typically, that's the mistake people make in relationships, that we oftentimes always point fingers at others. And like we have talked about in the past, we all have so much shit, trauma, stuff on our own plate that we shouldn't have a nanosecond to blame the other person. We should only look in and see, okay, what is it that we can do better in the future? But I think that's where most relationships go wrong, because people are not simply enough self-aware.
Right.
So they just like, it's easy to assume that the other person fixes my problems.
Right.
And nobody can do it, obviously.
Right. And I felt like for me, I was always looking for the external side of it. The pretty girl, the tall girl, what I feel like my friends would be proud of me, you know? And so when I started looking for that, I started really missing out on the depth of the relationship, and because obviously we understand that guys and girls think different, right? And for me, it was just like, well, if I just get the pretty girl, whatever, everything will work out. But it's like, no, I realize that you need to find somebody who's what's the term? It's they can regulate their emotions, emotional regulation, you know. And that's, I felt like, where I had a big issue. I would get triggered so easily, you know. And I know now that a lot of that has to do with trauma.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the actual issue at hand, you know.
I've been the same way in many respects, and not being able to deal with drama. First of all, I think being with wrong people who are not comfortable with themselves, who suffer from deep insecurity, they are the ones who outsource all their problems.
Right.
And then me not being fully comfortable with my own past, then not being able to deal with that quote-unquote drama that the other person was causing or was inflicting upon me.
Right.
So I think that was my issue as well. But I don't know where I heard it from, but I think it was actually Chris Bumstead. I don't know if you know him. He's this bodybuilder, a classic physique guy who won his 6th Mr. Olympia in a row now and retired at the age of whatever, 28, 29. So he walked away from the sport at the peak. And he said that he was being interviewed by Chris Williamson, this guy who's actually now super popular, successful, has his own podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can find him anywhere. Originally from the UK, but anyhow, he's close with many quote-unquote known people, celebrities, and he talked to Chris Bumstead, and Chris said that one of the criteria that he's using for a successful relationship is that find a person who you can be a burden to, meaning you're comfortable being yourself, because we are always at some point in our lives a burden to the other person. So if you have to hide something, if you can't be truly yourself, it's not a good situation to be in. So if you can be a burden to the other person, be vulnerable, really open all the doors and be quote-unquote naked in front of the other person mentally, that's something that you should hold on to. But it's tough, especially when you're younger, because you look at so many of the so-called external qualities, and you don't necessarily understand the balance between internal and external, and then you might go wrong there. But
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's another thing too that I realized is that meeting somebody in the first few dates, I would always try to be the perfect person, you know, not be myself. And I really,
the picture
and then so it's like, all right, I'm the perfect person, and then they fall in love with me or whatever, and then now they get to know the real me, and it's like, well, that's not who I
Yeah,
met,
it's funny.
you know.
Yeah.
And so then that's another learning experience that by being self-aware, I started really figuring out that was a big issue of mine. And it was also through feedback that I asked my exes from, you know, a lot of that. And so it's like, holy shit, yeah. Why am I being fake? Why am I not just being myself? So I started doing that and just felt so much better. And you just filter out everybody.
You don't have that burden anymore.
No. Yeah, man, that was like a moment when I realized that, you know, because it's kind of like, I remember also when I would interview for jobs, I would always try to be the perfect person. And then when I realized, like, when I got my first actual full job at Verizon, I went into that just like, you know what, I already have a job. If I don't get it, that's fine. You know, I'm just gonna be myself.
That's the thing.
And
But
then,
that's the thing with sales too. You're not selling, you're trying to help the other person decide. And it's like being okay no matter what happens. Either way, if you don't buy, I'm okay. That's kind of like going into an interview or being on a date with somebody, saying that, okay, I have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is that I'm going to be myself. And what happens. You don't have to, because the other person is going to find out anyhow.
Right.
So why not telling him or her, whoever you're dating, right away? And that's what I've been doing if I meet new people nowadays. I'm like probably even too honest.
yeah,
Like the first, I don't know, a couple hours, I'm just going to lay it out there. I'm not going to waste anybody's time.
right.
Because time is our most valuable resource. So why would I go and try to pretend to be somebody I'm not? I would much rather than just kind of reveal all the facts. But
Right.
of course, you know, that's also a way to test the other person. What's their capacity to deal with something?
Right.
And you'll find out pretty fast if they can handle what you're about to tell them.
Right.
But then, you know, why would you hide? Because like I said, they're going to find out anyhow if you end up dating somebody. So why
Right.
would I just wait for a month or two? Just rather tell right away. But
Right.
it's not easy when you're younger.
No,
I
no.
mean, we can't
We
handle
don't
it
know
because
shit.
we don't know anything. And there's not that self-awareness there.
Yeah.
But it's at least it's good that we learn at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think many people, they live their whole life without understanding who they truly are.
Yeah.
They can't reflect.
Because they're afraid. I feel like they're afraid to really dig deep into themselves
That's right.
in fears of them being unliked or unwanted. Whereas I felt that, I mean, I'm not 100% where I want to be, but the little progress that I've made, it happened, and I've heard this, that it happens when big traumatic events happen. You start really figuring out life and really valuing life and realizing that life is short. And so, like, for me, it was when my mom passed away. When my mom passed away, I was at a point where I had, like, I don't give a fuck mentality. You know, I don't give a fuck if I die. Not that, like, I was thinking of killing myself, but, like, if I were to die in an accident or something, I used to fear that. It's like, oh, I don't want, you know. And so when I started, and also, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me or what I think, or if I cry, or if I'm vulnerable. And I started to be super vulnerable with the people around me. Some people left, some people opened up.
Did you get comments about it from people that were close to you that, okay, what's up now? Why are you different? Or what was the feedback from your friends and people that were close to you?
No, they actually, I felt like they just opened up more. And I mean, the ones that really understood, they wouldn't, because they knew my pain, you know, so they wouldn't even ask. So they were just like, okay, he's just in a lot of pain. And I mean, I felt like I was a likable person, but I just felt internally that I wasn't liked, you know? And so when I started doing that, the people who really, I guess, cared about me really understood and realized that I was being genuine and vulnerable, and that helped them become the same. And they opened up to things that they've told me that they've never told anybody.
That's good.
So I built trust through that. And after that, man, I just felt like this weight lifted off my shoulder, and I was able to now explore more of myself.
I had the same feeling when I moved and threw a lot of stuff away when I told you that I sold the house, and got rid of a lot of stuff. I mean, literally a lot of stuff. So it's kind of the same thing. Not the same, but sometimes I think it's good to go through things like that and then get rid of that extra baggage, trash, if you want to call it that way.
Yeah.
Because I think when you get older, you'll appreciate simplicity more compared to when you were young. At least I think I used to think that accumulating things and having a lot of material possessions is going to be a good thing in your life. But you know, then you get older. It was actually the first time when we moved back to Europe, and I had 4 cars that I took to Finland. I was like, that's a good idea. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing with 4 cars? I can fit 2 in my garage. So I had 2 Porsches, 2 911s sitting in a garage. Then I was rotating them. Of course, I drove them only in the summer. I was like, this just makes no sense. This makes 0 sense.
But I feel, I mean, I'm not at that point yet, but I feel like, you know, part of our dreams and our goals growing up is always to have something like that. And I feel like we work so hard to be able to get to that point, but I feel like once we get to that point, we realize that it's not about the things, you know, like you talk a lot about, it's about the time, you know, we don't have time to waste. But, and now that we have the cars, like I feel like I kind of got that the first time I ever bought a brand new car, and it was a Mercedes. And I never thought I would be able to buy something like that. So after I bought the Mercedes, then I bought my first investment property. It was a duplex, right? Once I bought that duplex, I realized the game changed, because now I'm into making money, quote unquote, without having to work for somebody. Even though I was still working with somebody, you know? But then at that point, I realized, and I ended up getting rid of the Mercedes. And this is the car that I'm driving is my mom's car.
Yeah, okay.
The 2005 Honda Civic.
Yeah.
I got rid of the Mercedes
because
I thought it was all about status. And it's like, no, I'm in another level now.
Yeah, and then you realize that you have that Mercedes, and then you're like, okay, a month goes by and you don't feel any different.
Yeah.
You're excited probably for a month, couple of weeks, and you're like, okay, why the fuck did I get it?
Right.
It's like, but I like nice things, but then nowadays I'm much more willing to spend money on traveling, spending time with my kids, creating experiences, memories. And experiences are the only things that we are left with when we run out of time. And those are usually related to people and places. You create memories. It's not the material stuff. You're not any happier if you have 5 Ferraris in your garage when you die. But if you've been able to create memories, experiences with your loved ones or family members or whoever is important to you, I mean, that really matters at the end of the day. But of course, these are the things that I mean, people who are much more successful than we are talk about knowing several billionaires, like Gary Vee talks about it, and they all, not all, but several of them are very miserable. But I think it's that thing that maybe I mentioned this to you, but I believe firmly in the fact that you can accomplish great things in life by following 2 different paths. Number one is that crippling insecurity. That's a huge motivator. That's a big why for many people. I've been on that boat. And then there's that curiosity. And the sooner you can move from that crippling insecurity towards curiosity, the better off you are. But if I look at myself, the reason why I started training back in the day, it was just 100% insecurity. And that crippling insecurity is kind of the same as having a chip on your shoulder, proving everybody wrong. I'm going to show everybody what I'm capable of. You know what I mean? And it can be a very, very big motivator, but it's not necessarily healthy if you can't channel it towards good things. But I still find it, I think every time I've started a new business from scratch, my crippling insecurity level goes down a little bit and my curiosity goes up a notch. Kind of like, you know, the same way. And nowadays I can say that the last thing I started now 9 months ago, I think my curiosity level is probably a little higher than my crippling insecurity level. But it's still there. It's not going to go away. And I know that like sticking to a schedule, or routine, there's a lot of that insecurity still there, as far as, okay, is this gonna go away? I need to keep grinding, I need to keep going.
Right.
But the more I can lean towards curiosity, the better off I am, I think.
Yeah, I get a lot of anxiety if I don't, like, I get anxiety, and I'm like, why do I get anxiety? It's like, because I'm not doing the things that I know I need to do, things that I have to do. So once I start doing that, like posting, I'm like, EJ wants, he needs, I need to post before I meet up with him. And it's like, once I start making that, it's like, okay, now I feel a little bit easier, you know. But I want to, if you don't mind, I want to get into like go back to like how you started, and where you're at, and how you got to where you're at now.
Oh, you're talking about that latest thing, that like the social media and that business coaching stuff? Or?
More about just how you started, like, if, like, you know, people don't know you, like how,
even longer time ago than you mean like the
like before
journey?
Before, okay. Like,
yeah, well, briefly my journey. I was born and raised in Finland. I got my green card when I was 18. I was in the military back in the day in Finland, and then I got back home, and the same day I was notified that I was among the first 100,000, that's how they put it, of which 55,000 people will get their green card. So act fast. And then fast forward to the following, this was September or something, and then fast forward to the following spring in April, that's when I had an interview at the US Embassy in Helsinki, Finland, and then that's when I got my green card, and then moving to Florida when I was 19. So I've been back and forth, whether I lived in Finland or in Germany or in the US, but I've been kind of mentally and physically out of my home country ever since. And I'm, I guess, rootless in a way. And but yeah, so then I had a long corporate career, worked for 11 years for Nokia, the giant back then in telecommunications, cell phones, and then lived in San Diego when I left corporate and started my business here and started doing real estate. So that was my first reset as an entrepreneur. And then when we decided to move back to Europe, I started from scratch doing the same thing, doing real estate. Ended up doing some fix and flips, and then pretty soon, quote unquote, graduated in doing new construction, a little bigger deals. And then 9 months ago, I felt that was kind of enough. I guess my business model was a little broken in a sense. I did too much by myself because of my own issues and whatnot. I wanted to test myself and see how good I truly am by being by myself.
Yeah.
But anyhow, then I started a business coaching venture, if you want to call it that way, because I've always liked being part of startups and being on part of their board of directors and stuff like that, maybe investing in smaller companies, and I felt that I had this passion to deliver my message and pass on whatever I have learned, whether it's business or personal. I also wanted to create a legacy for my own kids. My son is 19, my daughter is almost 16. That's how I started, and we have known each other since, I don't know, 2000 something, 8, 9, 10, when we first met here in San Diego.
Yeah.
And then we started working together a couple of months ago regarding your real estate stuff and my business coaching thing. So that's, I guess, why we're here. And now we happen to be in San Diego at the same time. Me here, spending the holiday season here with my family, and then you also visiting San Diego.
Yeah, I'll have to take a trip to Finland.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe you come to Spain when I spend some winter time there. You never know.
Yeah, so you had mentioned you were going to Spain. Are you also going to do business in Spain, or?
I don't have any clients there right now. I don't know in the future. Potentially I will, but my goal has been to, I mentioned this is my third time doing a reset as a business owner. So I wanted to build a business now that is location independent. I didn't want to tie myself into one particular physical location anymore.
Yeah.
And now I like Spain. That's kind of, time difference is 1 hour between Finland and Spain. As long as my kids are in Northern Europe, I probably won't be living here in the States. So why did I pick Spain? I like the weather. It's kind of like Southern California, and lifestyle is very relaxed. But to your question about business over there, maybe I have clients, maybe I don't, but at least I can work from there and do the same thing I do from here or from Finland or whatever.
Right.
But I want to be in a situation in the future where I can spend my winters wherever I want, and maybe summers,
Right.
depending where my kids are. Maybe they are in Finland, maybe they are not. But that's kind of my next goal. I wanted to once more maybe move to another country, at least part-time, and then start a new business. So that was kind of I wanted to test if I can pull that off.
Right. So you're how much time do you have? How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's, maybe wrap it up in 10-15, but
Okay.
yeah.
You mentioned on your YouTube channel that you've built multiple businesses from 0 to 5 million. Can you give us an example of one of maybe one of the first ones, and like the trials and tribulations of building that?
A couple of companies here in the US, and then also my construction business in Finland. So by 5 million is revenue. Obviously profit is I've been at 10 to 20% level depending on where I've been, but so what's really common between all of them is that I've been able to, I guess, identify in the beginning what does it take to get over the first hurdle. And when it comes to real estate here in San Diego, I pretty soon understood that, and this is what we talked about maybe what was it last time, that I understood that I needed to convince the people who controlled the inventory that I'm a legitimate alternative when it comes to them selling their property, or then real estate agents considering me as a buyer. And I really was able to do that by what I called making good promises and keeping them all. And I understood that real estate is a game, especially when you want to do a lot of fix and flips. When you have to get your numbers up, your volume up, you need to make sure that you establish yourself as a legitimate player in the eyes of those people who, like I said, who control the inventory. So what I did was that I was marketing, I was doing a lot of promotion activities in the beginning, and I basically was doing cold calling. I called agents up, the ones who had the listings, plus then I had my direct marketing campaign targeted towards homeowners directly. So that's what I did.
Okay.
I was able to kind of like build my baseline up that way. And then when I moved to Finland, I started again from scratch, had my company set up there. I started the same thing. I was advertising in a local newspaper, getting my deals that way. Plus then I would say 80 or 90% of my deals came from the local agents. So I did the exact same thing, kind of like talking to them, calling them up, saying why they should be working with me and so forth. And now with the third time, when I did my reset with this business coaching venture, so I had not really done any social media marketing in the past, even though I had realized a couple of years ago that this is where all the attention is. And I had asked myself, why is it that I'm not anywhere using my own name or showing my face? And I said, okay, well, the real reason is that I have insecurities, I have weaknesses. And then I also asked myself, okay, is this something I'm going to regret when I'm 90? And the answer was yes. And then it was only a matter of time when I had to face those fears and start doing it. So I wanted to test how this attention game works in the modern society, meaning making organic social media content and generating leads that way. Because there are different ways how you can market. You can do the cold calling part, like I mentioned. You can talk to the people you know, and then you can run paid ads, or you can do the organic social media. Organic social media was the only thing I hadn't tried before.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like briefly my journey. And I've also been very open about the fact that one of the reasons why I was capped at 5 million as a business owner was that I did too much by myself, because I didn't really know how to hire people.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know how to trust people enough so that I would delegate the responsibilities. But it was because I wasn't simply persistent enough. I didn't work long enough consistently to find the right people that I would be able to give the tasks to. It wasn't until I was the chairman of the board of my brother's business that we then sold to a private equity company, where I saw the power of recruiting and building the team, that I understood, okay, this is what I should have done as well with my real estate game. And now I don't know about this business coaching thing, how that's gonna turn up, but we'll see. Maybe I'm smarter with recruiting and trusting people, what I wasn't able to do in the past.
Well, I mean, I want to thank you for building that, and starting to post more, because that's how we got together. And I always felt like I needed some sort of mentorship, because like I'm all over the place and I'm trying to, I've failed in many businesses, and I just feel like I didn't have a lot of structure. There was a lot of insecurities. There was a lot of disorganization. And, from what I knew from you, in, early 2000 or mid 2000, and then now, following you on Facebook, because you did, before you started posting more, you did post a couple pictures here and there. And I just saw some of the architectural designs that you had, and they're just super clean. And then as soon as you started like posting more and more, like you were the one that came into my mind, because there was nobody else that I felt was doing more or doing or be in the position of where I wanted to be. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there in social media that I didn't know, that maybe I didn't trust. So I never really pursued that. So I reached out, and I'm like, it doesn't hurt. That's another thing too, is like reaching out was also a fear of mine, and it's like, I believe now that your network is, or your net worth is your network.
Correct. Correct.
And so I just started, and also like you were talking about, the curiosity, the insecurities, that's where I started just trying to be more curious and trying to be more approachable, and just reaching out to people, and not being in fear of being said no to.
Exactly.
But just the stuff already that we've been working on, I feel like has helped me so much. You've been helping me like just build more structure. You've helped me be more consistent, more organized, and I can already see just the progress. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I think with you, which we have talked about, I think we tend to have this feeling that we don't really know that much, but then sometimes it's an outsider that comes in and says, hey, look what you have done. Why don't you just start documenting your life and telling people these stories? Like in your case as well. I mean, if you think about how many properties you have flipped or rehabbed or bought and kept as a rental, I mean, you have so many stories that you can just keep telling those, not all over, but even if you told every story just once, you would have enough material for a couple of years. So basically it's a combination of telling your old stories plus documenting your life the way it is right now, and you never really run out of ideas. And like you said a couple of times yourself, that sometimes we underestimate our own capabilities until somebody comes to us and approaches you, like you said, in a meeting or conference or whatever, and like, how would you do this? And then you're like, oh, somebody sees me as an expert in this field. I think that's what it sometimes takes, that somebody gives us a push.
Right.
It's like, yeah, keep going. He'll be fine. Because we, like I said, we always underestimate our capabilities. But if it hasn't been said by you, it hasn't been said. If you think about the business world, all the principles, all the equations, everything, they have been invented decades ago, right? We're all just repeating the same mantra. Like the same thing in workouts. Like, what do you think Arnold 6 was invented? Way before Arnold. Like he just relabeled it or whatever. It's like it's the same thing. If every personal trainer had to reinvent the wheel, there wouldn't be any personal trainers, because they just keep repeating the same thing that has been there.
Right.
It's just like delivering that message using their voice, using their charisma, personality, strengths and weaknesses. That's what makes it unique. It's not the story itself. And like we have said, as long as you stick to your story, you state the facts, you tell the truth, you're always unique. You never fake, and you don't have to worry about your message. It's going to find its own audience. But volume is the most difficult part in the beginning, because that's the only way how we can get better. Getting the skill set, and for that we need volume.
And you're helping me out a lot with that, because I know I struggle with that. So I don't think I've ever posted this much, and I don't know. I've been seeing just the progress, but like, I want to congratulate you on your channel because I've already seen some 10, 20K views on your channel, you know?
Yeah, I think I mean, I have on my YouTube channel like 16,000 was the number of subscribers. It's a small number, but still, I've been surprised that, I don't know, I put a little bit of promotion money, a few $100 behind it, so maybe that's helping too. But I like to think that maybe there's something that people like about the content, but you know, we'll see how it goes in the future. Maybe it grows, maybe it doesn't, but I'm super grateful. I deserve nothing. I'm grateful for everything. That's my new.
Very nice.
That's one of my new slogans.
We can end it at that. That's a perfect way to end it. But can you share with people your YouTube channel, your Instagram?
Yeah,
your
absolutely. It's my first name, Erkka Suvanto, is my last name. So Erkka Suvanto. I go by EJ as well. So just like ERKKASUVANTO. So if people are interested. So
cool, man. No, I appreciate your time, man. This is definitely fun, and I thank you for being a part of my journey and you know, being open to helping me out, and you know.
Absolutely, anytime, and we'll continue working together. And in the meantime, you will also be posting more for your audience and growing that, sharing the, you know, lessons and your journey with everybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited
it's going to be very useful for you and everybody else too.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.